everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. Today's program is going to be a delicious, simple, easy dinner that you could, or lunch really, that you can make any day of the week. I recently have been doing a lot of cleaning out of my pantry, cleaning out my freezers, using what I have. I think we've all been doing that lately. And so this recipe is designed to use things that you probably already have on hand. If you don't have them, they're very simple, easy staples that most people have, but they're also very inexpensive. So this is an inexpensive pantry clean out kind of meal. This is one of my favorite things to eat. I am a soup person. And it doesn't have to be winter for me to want soup. I eat it winter, spring, summer, and fall. Love, love, love soups. So we're going to make a vegetable beef soup. To go alongside that, we're going to make an onion cornbread and a delicious chocolate strawberry pudding dessert. But we're going to get started on the soup. Now in this pot, I have just some ground beef, just some lean ground beef that I'm browning, about a pound. This recipe doesn't use beef cubes like the chuck cubes that we've done before. This just uses ground beef. And I pretty much always have ground beef in my freezer. Pretty much always. So it's a great way to use that up. We're going to add an onion. Most people have onions in their pantry. That's a staple. If you don't, maybe you have onion powder or, dehydrated minced onion, you could use those. If you don't have either, you can leave it out. Although, I think soups need that base of the onion. But if you don't have any, don't worry about it. We're just going to mince that onion. I think I'm only going to use half of this because my vegetable blend that I'm using has onion in it. Oops, there's a piece of the peel. All right, we're just going to add that to our pot. I'll use the other half of that onion in our cornbread. All right, add that, stir that in. Let that be sauteing. I love soups. Now, I'm using a lean ground beef, and you could use turkey or chicken, ground turkey if you wanted to. You could even use ground pork if you wanted to. Either, any of those type things would be fine. If you don't have any beef or meat and you don't want to use meat, this could be a delicious vegetarian dish also. Just leave out the meat. I'm using beef stock, but you could use vegetable stock if you wanted to. So I have here some potatoes. Always have potatoes on hand. And I'm also just going to use frozen vegetables. Now, this is a great thing to have in your pantry. I use frozen veggies all the time. I use the blends for soups. I use the frozen okra, which I have here. I make an okra and tomato dish out of that, or a okra gumbo. I use that a lot. My choices are just a vegetable blend. This particular one has got some red peppers, some carrots, some peas, some celery, a few little frozen potatoes, not very many, some onions, some green beans, some corn, just different blends. You could use whatever kind of vegetable blend that you like. This one is vegetables for soup. And then I love okra in my soup. My mother always put okra in her vegetable soup. So I keep in my freezer sliced okra. I also keep whole okra for another dish. So this is just one small bag of okra. And you can find the frozen blends of vegetables on sale all the time. So when you find it on sale, stock up on it. Get 2 or 3 bags and keep them in your freezer. So when you are ready to cook and you're like, I don't know what to cook, you can pretty much always throw these ingredients into a pot and make vegetable soup. It's also a great use for maybe those leftover vegetables that you've cooked. If you've got a couple of carrots and some celery that you need to use up fresh, use that. Use what you've got. I'm just using the store-bought frozen vegetables. And this is very veggie heavy. Okay, now I'm actually going to leave what little bit of fat that's left in my pot. I'm going to add 1 can of tomato soup. Just tomato soup. If you don't have tomato soup and you've got a can of diced tomatoes, use the diced tomatoes. And I forgot to get my water. You need some water. Oh, there it is. My big thing of water. No, that's not my big one. Where'd you go? There you are. I forgot to get my water out. So we're going to get, around 5 cups or so of water, because I'm using beef bouillon cubes, because for me, that's a pantry staple. I always have those things on hand. So I'm using 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 cubes. If you have the granules, you'd want, 3 or 4 teaspoons of that. If you're using beef stock, 5 or 6 cups of ready-to-go beef stock. Whoop, that's plenty of water. Let's see, how much is that? That's 2 quarts, but we might not need all that. Let's pour this in here. I'm actually going to pour a little bit in my soup container. Whoops. To get out the rest of that soup. Just pour you some water in there and then take a thing and I don't want to waste that. All right, stir all that together. Again, you could add some diced tomatoes if you have them. Would be delicious. If you've got home canned tomatoes, by all means, add those home canned tomatoes. Then we're going to add our vegetables. Just add them right in. Again, this one's very veggie heavy. If you want to cook your potatoes separately, you can. Sometimes I'll do that to get rid of some of that starch. Also, if you're going to use like macaroni or something like that in there, you'd want to cook that separately too. I'm not using any today, but anytime you're making soups that uses a pasta, cook that separately. I have here my potatoes. I have scrubbed these. Now, I don't peel mine most of the time in my soups. If you want to, you feel free to do that. But I don't, not for soup. Because there's a lot of vitamins and minerals right under that skin that if you peel, you're going to peel away. You want to cut these into pieces about the same size as your vegetables. And as you cut, just drop what you got in there. I'm using 3 potatoes. You want, a couple of cups of potatoes, as few or as many as you want. I like potatoes in my soup. I love vegetable soup. I can remember when I was a little girl, that was one of my favorite things that my mother cooked, was her homemade vegetable soup. And she's been gone for many years now, and try as I might, I cannot get her recipe for soup down. Maybe because she made it with love, I don't know. But I've tried, and I can't. And I miss her soup. I loved her vegetable soup. It was delicious. My mom was a great cook. And I learned a lot from her. I mean, she's really where I got started. We'll stir this and see if I need that 3rd potato. I don't know if I do or don't, because that particular blend did have some potato in there, but I like this fresh potato to add to it. Your blend may or may not, because there are a lot of different vegetable blends in the freezer department. It entirely depends on the brand. Let's see if I want to add that one. No, I think that's probably plenty. I don't think I will add that 3rd potato. Now, the bouillon cubes that I used are a little salty, so you don't need to add too much salt, but I am going to add just a pinch. I'm also going to add just a pinch of pepper. That's it. This just needs to simmer. So we're going to cover this, let that simmer for a few minutes. I'm going to take a quick break, clean up, and when I come back, we'll get started on the cornbread. I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, now our soup is simmering. And that, by the way, you could totally throw that in a crock pot. Just brown the beef, add the rest of the ingredients. Brown the beef separately, drain it, put it in your slow cooker, add the rest of your ingredients, put it on low, let it go all day. You could do that too. We're going to get started on the cornbread. Now, this is an onion cornbread. So I have a non-stick skillet over there that I have melted, or I am melting some butter, a couple of tablespoons of butter. And I'm going to mince this onion up fairly fine. Just dice it. We're going to saute this onion because this is an onion cornbread, and it's so good with soups or chilies, things like that. Oh, so good. Let's see. Let me get my butter going here. And we will add our onion. I get asked all the time where I get my utensils on this show. Some of them I've had for a very long time. I mean, since the beginning of the program, really. This is, in particular, is one I get asked about a lot. It's actually a baking tool. It's called a bench scraper, but I love it. I use it all the time. You can find these everywhere. I mean, any store that has a decent cooking section. I mean, even your Walmarts and things like that, Target. But you can also find them sometimes at the dollar store for $1, and you can also get them on Amazon. I would get the metal. That's my preference. I do have some that are plastic like this that I use a lot for dough. These work too. These are great. I got these on Amazon. But I get asked quite often. I need to just do like an Amazon link store that you can find what I use, because I do get asked a lot, what am I using? I'm just going to let these saute until they're translucent. I don't want to brown them. I don't want any of that. I'm just sauteing them until they're cooked through. While that's doing its thing, I have an 8 by 8 inch pan that I've sprayed with non-stick cooking spray. I have 1 box of a cornbread mix. This particular one is Jiffy. I'm going to add some milk and 1 egg, just exactly like it's called for on the package. So whatever brand of cornbread mix that you are using, you will want to use whatever ingredients it calls for on yours. Mine just says milk and egg, so that's what we're doing. So far, this is just regular cornbread. But we are going to change that up. We're going to stir that together, and I do need a fork. I need a spatula for that. Keep an eye on your onions. You don't want to burn them. You don't want to caramelize them. We just really are literally just wanting to brown them. Preheat your oven. Mine is set at 400 degrees. Get that preheated. Don't over mix your batters. You don't want to stir. You see how there are still some lumps in there? Anytime you're making a quick bread, which is what a cornbread is, or a muffin, pancake, that kind of thing, don't stir it till it's completely smooth. If you do, you're going to have tough breads. Let me get a bigger one. Stir all of that out of there. Scrape that bowl down, get all that product out. I hear my onions. I need to stir those. Now I'm just going to spread that out on the bottom for a minute. Okay. Let's check our onions. They're done. I just want to saute those. Now, I'm going to spread these onions over top as evenly as I can over top of the batter. If you wanted to stir them into the batter, you could. But I like it to be just like a little bit of a layer type thing. Take your spatula, just spread them out. All right. Now I have here some cheddar cheese and some sour cream. And I'm just going to blend those two things together. Just 8 ounces of sour cream and some shredded cheddar cheese. Just mix that. and spread that on top of this. Be careful with it. You don't want to mix this in. You really just kind of want that to be on top as much as you can. So I like to just take my little spatula and do some dollops over top, and then I'll spread that out. This is so good. I love cooked onions. If you know me at all, you know I'm not a fan of raw onions at all. Don't like them, not even a little bit. But I love them cooked. When I make pizzas at home, I'll make Mike and myself, I will make us a pizza. And I have the crust, and I have the sauce, and some pepperoni. And then I literally take 3 or 4 big onions, and I will slice them thinly and put all that. I mean, I've got a pile of that much onion on top of my pizza, and then top it with cheese and bake it. Oh, so good. So I really, really do like onions on my pizza. I like cooked. And that's it. Could have popped this in the oven at 400 degrees. Oh, about, I'd say 20 minutes, probably something like that, until a toothpick inserted comes out clean. So let's get this in the oven at 400 degrees. And we'll just let that go. Let's check on our soup. See how we're doing. Oh, it's coming together. Look at that. Yum. I love soup. All right, I'm just going to clean up here, get my dishes in the sink. When I come back, we're going to get started on a delicious chocolate and strawberry dessert. I'll be back in just a minute. All righty, now our cornbread is in the oven. Our soup is simmering, and I just turned it down a little bit because it really has come to a nice little, oh, look how good that looks. Ooh, can't wait to eat that. I'm actually going to turn it down one more level, I think. Just let it simmer. That's all you want to do. Now, let's get started on our dessert. Now, this is one you could totally make ahead if you wanted to. I have here 1 box of instant, not the cook and serve, but instant chocolate pudding. And I go a little bit shy of what the milk calls for. The pudding, or the directions call for. The directions call for 2 cups of milk. But I find for pudding dessert, when you're using it in a dessert, I like to go about 1 3/4. And I'll see in a minute if I need to add more. We're going to whip that together with an electric mixer. If you want to make homemade chocolate pudding, you go right ahead. This is just using things we have on hand. And most of the time, I will have some sort of flavor of pudding. If you don't want to use chocolate, you could use vanilla, you could use coconut, you could use whatever you wanted. Pistachio would be really good with this. One of my favorite desserts ever is something we've made on this program before. It's called Lemon Delight. And it uses a nut crust with lemon pudding. Lemon pudding with the strawberries would be fantastic. Oh, so good. I love the flavor of lemons. All right, now we're going to this, we're going to mix in. You see how it's already, because I went just a tad bit shy, I did about 1 3/4 cup. I'm going to add 1 container of just frozen whipped topping. If you want to make your own whipped cream out of heavy cream, go ahead. Would be delicious. Add a little sweetener to it first. I make homemade whipped cream at home quite often. I love it. I've got an exciting recipe to share with you all one day soon for a coconut cream pie that I've just tweaked, and I've got it perfected at home, and it is so good, and it's low carb. It's delicious, and Mike and I both agree that we would rather have that than the full carb, sweet on, regular coconut cream pie. Love coconut cream pie. So that's coming. We're working on it. All right, now, I've got my components ready. I have my pudding, and it's okay if it's a little streaky. I like the look of that. Let me get rid of this milk. I've got here some sliced strawberries that I've already washed and sliced. This is just, one big container of strawberries. If you've got some that are in season, oh my goodness. I went to the fruit market the other evening, and they had just gotten in some fresh strawberries from South Carolina, I believe it was, and oh my goodness, are they ever good. You will also need a package of vanilla wafers or Nilla wafers, and you want to line the bottom of your, I'm just using a 9 by 13. Let's just get some in there. I may have too many here. Let's get some. You just want to line the bottom, however many it takes you. Set them to the side because we're going to use them. That is plenty for that layer. Then we're going to take, you can either do your strawberries, or we'll just do the strawberries first, I guess. Let's add a layer, about half or so of your strawberries. Just, spread them on there. I've sliced mine. You could chop them if you wanted to into, smaller pieces. Up to you. If you wanted to mix in some blueberries, you could do that too. But strawberries and chocolate together are just a match made in heaven to me. Love the flavoring of that. Then we want to take our pudding mix, and we're going to just, again, dollop it over. I want about half of that. Do a very good job mixing that bottom. That's all right. It's okay. Add a little more. And then I like to use a little offset spatula if you've got one. This is for frosting, but it makes this job so much easier. If you don't have one of these, you could just use a little butter knife would work, or a spoon, whatever you have. Use what you've got. But this is a very, very easy, quick, and delicious dessert. You're going to make this ahead and let it set. It's best served, a couple of hours after you've made it. All right, now we're going to just take some more wafers and layer these over top. And I don't have one made ahead, so you get to watch me layer my Nilla wafers. I get asked all the time, do you cook that stuff? And I do it in real time. I don't have things prepped ahead. I'm actually really doing it as you're watching me. I don't have staff behind the scenes having it done at various stages. I just don't have that. I don't think I would want that, to be honest with you. I really don't. Okay? You can really, do this how you want. If you want to end up with pudding, then do the strawberries next. If you want to end up with strawberries on top, and I do, then you will want to put your pudding next. Doesn't really matter. It's going to taste the same. So we're going to just put the rest of our pudding on here. Get all that out of there. And then spread that out just like you did the other layer. So good. This would be a perfect summertime dish to take to a picnic or to a church after church dinner, or a potluck meal, or for your 4th of July celebration or Mother's Day celebration, whatever you're doing. This would be perfect to take to that. And then Top it with the rest of your strawberries. You can take the time to layer them on there really pretty if you want. I'm not that kind of person. I just spread them out there. If you want to be meticulous, you do it. I don't have the time on here, nor would I do it if I did have the time. I'm not that kind of gal. And then if you wanted to crunch up some of your Nilla wafers and sprinkle them over as crumbs, you could totally do that too. Top it with a little bit of powdered sugar if you wanted to. Completely up to you. Now, this needs to chill for a couple of hours so it can just set together and those flavors can blend. We'll pop this in the fridge, check my soup, check my cornbread, and when I come back, we will be ready to eat. I'll be back in just a second. Alrighty, now everything is done. Here is our wonderful strawberry dessert that I did actually take some of the leftover Nilla wafers, crumble them up in a bag. I just put them in a baggie and smashed them, sprinkled that on top because I thought it made it look pretty. Here is our onion cornbread. Now I do want to talk a second about this. When you take this out of the oven, you're going to see, remember on the top of this, we put that sour cream and cheese mixture. That's not ever going to firm up. So when you do your toothpick test, you need to go in one of the corners where there's not the sour cream to test to see if it's done. Because the bottom obviously will be cooked through, but the sour cream and the cheese will still be kind of gooey and melted. That is to set up after you take it out of the oven for 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you can, to firm up and cool down a little bit so it won't fall apart when you cut it. Delicious. This is good with soup. This would be superb with chili. As a matter of fact, you could make whatever chili recipe you like, put that in the bottom of a casserole. If you're doing one this big, I would double it, but if you're not, just the recipe like we did, and bake that on top of your chili. Oh boy, that would be delicious. That'd be so, so good. So here's our soup. It's finished. It's been simmering, so we're going to serve that up in a bowl. We're going to put this with our cornbread and our wonderful dessert, and you've got dinner done in a flash. Thank you for joining with me, and I will see you next time on Everyday Manna.